We found the cooler because my friend kicked it. It was half buried near the dunes, far enough from the shoreline that the tide couldn't have carried it there. We assumed someone had forgotten it after spending the day at the beach, so Ethan pulled it from the sand and tried the handle. It was heavy. Not packed with drinks heavy, more like something solid had been wedged inside. We should have left it alone. We had been to that beach plenty of times, but never that late. We went after work with 2 folding chairs and a speaker, planning to watch the sunset and leave before dark. By the time we found the cooler, most visitors had gone. A few cars were still near the main entrance, but our end of the beach was almost empty. The cooler was plain gray. 2 strips of black tape were wrapped tightly around it. "Probably someone's bait," I said. Ethan shook it once. Something inside shifted with a dull thump. "You don't want to know?" "No. I meant it." He peeled back 1 strip of tape anyway. The smell reached us before he fully opened the lid. It wasn't rotten. It was chemical, sharp enough to sting my throat. Inside were several vacuum-sealed packages wrapped in brown plastic. Sitting on top of them was a small black handgun. Ethan closed the lid immediately. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I heard an engine. Not on the road, on the sand. A dark pickup truck was coming toward us from farther down the beach, moving slowly with its headlights off. That was when the situation stopped being interesting. I grabbed Ethan's arm. "Put it back." He tried to push the cooler into the hole, but we had disturbed too much sand. It wouldn't sit the way it had before, and the loose tape hung from the side. The truck kept coming. Slow enough that whoever was inside had already seen us. We left the cooler and started walking toward the public entrance. We didn't run because that would make it obvious we understood what we had found. The truck reached us before we made it 30 yards. The passenger window rolled down. 2 men were inside. The driver looked to be in his 40s. The passenger was younger, wearing a cap low over his face. The younger man looked past us at the cooler, then back at Ethan. "You opened that?" Ethan answered too quickly. "No." The man smiled, but there was nothing friendly about it. "Then why's the tape hanging off?" "We thought someone forgot it. We didn't take anything." The driver leaned across the console. "Come closer." Neither of us moved. He opened his door. Ethan ran. It wasn't planned. 1 second he was beside me, and the next he was sprinting toward the road. The passenger jumped out and went after him. I turned to run, but the driver caught my shirt and pulled me down. My knee hit the sand, then my face struck the truck. Everything flashed white. Then I felt something cold pressed behind my ear. "Stay down." I did. Behind me, Ethan shouted. There was a hard crack, followed by him hitting the ground. The driver held me down while the other man dragged Ethan back toward the truck. Blood ran from Ethan's nose and down his shirt. 1 eye was already swelling shut. The younger man searched us. Phones, wallets, car keys. He unlocked our phones using our faces, checked our photographs, and deleted every picture Ethan had taken that evening. Then he went through our messages. Slowly. "You tell anyone you were coming here?" he asked. I said no. Ethan started to answer, and the man kicked him in the ribs before he finished. It wasn't a warning kick. Ethan folded forward and made a sound I had never heard from him before. The man crouched beside him. "You sure?" Ethan nodded. They kept us face down while they loaded the cooler into the truck. Before leaving, the driver threw our phones into the ocean. Then he told us to wait 10 minutes before standing. "If either of you looks at the license plate," he said, "we're turning around." We stayed there long after the truck was gone. Ethan suffered 2 cracked ribs, a broken nose, and a cut above his eyebrow that needed stitches. I had a concussion and a deep cut along my cheek. We reported everything, but there wasn't much we could give the police. No plate number, no phones, no clear description beyond 2 men and a dark pickup. They found the hole where the cooler had been buried, but nothing else. 3 weeks later, Ethan received a social media message from an account with no photograph and no followers. It contained one sentence: "You were told to leave it." The account disappeared before he could respond. We never returned to that beach. Not because we were afraid of finding another cooler, because whoever buried the first one knew exactly who had opened it. Maya was gone for less than 5 minutes. That was all it took. There were 4 of us at the beach that night, sitting near the dunes with a small fire and a cooler between us. We had gone down after dinner and planned to leave before midnight. The beach wasn't crowded, but we weren't completely alone. A couple sat farther down near the water, and a few people were still near the parking lot. It felt public enough that none of us were worried. Around 11:30, Maya stood and said she was going to use the restroom near the main entrance. I offered to go with her, but she laughed and said she'd be back in a minute. A few minutes later, her phone started ringing beside me. She had left it on the blanket. At first, I thought she had changed her mind and gone behind the dunes instead. None of us had watched which direction she took after leaving the fire. I waited another minute, then stood and called her name. No answer. Luis shouted too. Still nothing. That was when the mood changed. Luis and Aaron headed toward the restrooms while I searched along the dunes with my phone flashlight. The wind was loud enough that I almost missed the sound. It wasn't a scream. It sounded like someone trying to breathe with a hand over their mouth. I stopped and listened. There it was again, coming from behind a patch of tall grass. I climbed the rise and aimed my light over it. Maya was on the ground. A man was kneeling over her with one hand across her mouth and the other around her wrist. He had already dragged her several feet into the grass. Her shoes were off, and long tracks ran through the sand behind her heels. I shouted her name. The man looked up, stood, and came straight at me. I backed down the slope, yelling for Luis and Aaron. He grabbed my jacket before I reached flat ground and pulled me toward him. I smelled alcohol on his breath, but he moved with complete control. He told me to shut up. I swung my phone and caught him near the eye. He released me for half a second, then punched me in the mouth. I tasted blood before I felt the pain. I fell, and he dropped onto me with his knee pressed into my stomach. Then he reached beside him and picked up a broken bottle. When I covered my face, he dragged the jagged edge across my forearm. The cut opened immediately, pouring blood onto the sand. Then Luis hit him from the side. They rolled away from me, fighting near the dunes. Aaron pulled Maya up while I wrapped my sleeve around my arm. The man struck Luis twice before Aaron kicked him hard in the ribs. That finally made him run into the unlit section of beach beyond the dunes. We didn't chase him. Maya could barely stand. Her lip was split, one side of her face was swelling, and bruises were forming around her throat. Police arrived about 15 minutes later. Officers searched the dunes and found a hidden area behind the grass. There was a backpack. Inside were zip ties, duct tape, a knife, 2 prepaid phones, and several pieces of women's jewelry. None of it belonged to Maya. That was the moment all of us stopped talking. This wasn't someone who got drunk and made a terrible decision. He had come prepared. Maya later told us what happened. As she walked toward the restroom, a man near the parking lot asked if she had dropped a bracelet. She said it wasn't hers and kept moving. He followed, then claimed a woman was injured near the dunes and asked Maya to help. She realized something was wrong and turned back, but he grabbed her from behind before she could shout. Police never found him. They collected DNA from the backpack, but we were never told whether it matched anyone. I needed 12 stitches. Luis had a fractured cheekbone. Maya stopped going anywhere alone for a long time. The beach later installed brighter lights and cleared some of the tall grass. I drove past once after that. Families were there. Children were running around. People were taking pictures by the water. It looked completely normal. That's what still bothers me. We weren't in the wilderness. We were less than 5 minutes from a public parking lot. And Maya wasn't gone long enough for us to start worrying. But whoever took her didn't need long. He only needed us to look away. I used to run along the beach before sunrise because it was the only time the path wasn't crowded. Most mornings I passed the same people. Fishermen near the rocks, a few older couples walking, and one maintenance truck moving slowly along the sand. That morning the beach was almost empty. I was about 2 miles into my run when I heard a whistle. One short blast, then another. It came from a lifeguard tower farther down the beach. The towers were closed that early, and the one ahead had metal shutters covering the windows. I assumed it was a bird or wind passing through something loose. Then I heard it again. 3 quick blasts. That sounded intentional. I slowed to a walk and looked for a lifeguard, but nobody was nearby. The water was calm, and I couldn't see anyone struggling offshore. The whistle came again, followed by a woman's voice. "Please," barely loud enough to hear over the waves. The tower stood several feet above the sand, with a narrow wooden staircase leading to the platform. One board near the bottom was broken, and the door at the top was secured with a chain. As I got closer, the chain moved. Someone was pulling it from inside. "Are you hurt?" I called. A woman answered immediately. "He's coming back." That stopped me halfway up the stairs. "Who?" She ignored the question. "Please get me out." I climbed the rest of the way and looked through the gap beside the door. A young woman was sitting on the floor inside. Her hands were bound with a plastic zip tie, and dried blood ran from her hairline down one side of her face. She said a man had grabbed her near the parking lot after her overnight shift at a nearby restaurant. He forced her into his van, drove onto the service road behind the beach, and locked her in the tower. She had been there for hours. The whistle belonged to him. He had dropped it when he left. I pulled at the chain, but it was secured with a thick padlock. I told her I was calling the police. The moment I took out my phone, she looked past me toward the beach. Her face changed. "He's back." I turned around. A white utility van was moving along the sand toward the tower. No markings, no headlights. It stopped about 100 yards away. A man got out, looked directly at us, then reached inside and pulled out a long metal bar. I gave the dispatcher our location and told her to send someone immediately. The man started walking toward the tower, not running. He didn't need to. There was only one staircase. I searched the platform for anything useful. A broken chair, a plastic rescue float, an empty fire extinguisher bracket. Nothing. The woman kept telling me to leave. I couldn't. If I ran, he would reach her before the police arrived. I picked up a loose piece of wood from the broken stair and stood at the top. The man stopped at the bottom. "She's my wife," he said. The woman screamed from inside. "No, I'm not." He kept looking at me. "She has problems. You don't want to be involved." I told him the police were coming. That made him move. He came up the stairs fast, holding the metal bar beside his leg. I swung the wood when he reached the platform. It caught him across the shoulder, but barely slowed him down. He hit me in the ribs with the bar. The pain folded me in half. Then he grabbed my shirt and slammed my face into the railing. I remember seeing blood hit the wood beneath me. He tried to throw me over the side. I hooked one arm around the railing while he pulled at my legs. The woman started kicking the door as hard as she could. The whole tower shook. He looked toward her for half a second. That was enough. I drove the broken end of the wood into his knee. He fell backward down several steps, his leg bending badly underneath him. I stayed at the top holding the wood while he dragged himself toward the van. Police vehicles entered the beach less than 2 minutes later. He didn't make it far. The woman survived. She had a fractured wrist, several cuts, and bruising around her neck. Police found rope, tape, women's clothing, and several identification cards inside the van. The cards belonged to 3 other women. 2 had already been reported missing. I never learned exactly what happened to them. The man eventually took a plea deal, and I was never required to testify. I stopped running before sunrise after that, not because I'm afraid of being alone on the beach, because whenever I pass one of those locked lifeguard towers, I wonder how many people would hear a whistle that early and convince themselves it was only the wind.